I think the point you're making about an inadequate digestive system, because I think, like, for instance, when somebody tells me they've got digestive issues, whether it's reflux or bloating or, some of the diseases, IBS, IBD, it's like, there's something wrong with their digestive tract, and, you've got to figure that out. And that may be impeding your ability to absorb things correctly. And so there's a lot of people with that. I mean, I don't know how common IBS is in Australia. I know it's in the United States, it's around 10-15% of the population are diagnosed with that. Probably an equal number are, undiagnosed that are going there, and, they can't figure out they're always bloating. This is the one thing that kind of, I don't know what your thoughts on this. There's a lot of women on social media posting about their bloated bellies and how normal it is, and we should embrace that. And, they call them food babies, and we should just, celebrate it. It's normal. And I always sit to myself saying, why would that be normal? I mean, if my lung was expanding out or hurting whenever I breathed, I wouldn't think that was normal. But what do you think about that concept of normalizing this sort of digestive pathology, in my view?
Yeah, and I understand where it's coming from, but to me, it's not normal. It's not the way the digestive tract should be functioning. Yes, obviously we eat a lot, you may feel heavy in your stomach, but we should have the machinery in our digestive tract to be dealing with that. As soon as there's pain, that tells me that there's, various different functions in the body, that the immune system's going to respond to that. Our stress is going to, we're going to end up with a stress response related to that. And so that's sort of the beginning of a cascade of all sorts of processes in the body that we don't necessarily want to have happening. But I think, to me, that, the idea of, that food baby, that bloating after every meal, that just tells me there is something fundamentally going on that we need to be addressing, that I wouldn't want to be feeling bloated after every meal. That would take a lot of the fun out of eating, wouldn't it? I'm a bit of a foodie at heart. I love my food, and I wouldn't want to be experiencing that. But I think that comes back to what's going on with our food, what's going on with our digestion. I mentioned bile before. It's one of those processes in the body that's so important. And yet I think the recent statistic I heard was in the US last year, 750,000 people had their gallbladders removed. 750,000. That's, 750,000 people. And yet we need all of these bits and pieces of our body. Yes, I know if somebody's got gallstones and everything's inflamed, there's no option, or it's deemed that there's no option. But my concern is what then happens down the track from there. Similar to the appendix. I remember when I took my one of my younger boys to the hospital because he was having appendix issues. The GP or the doctor in the hospital said to him, "This is good news, mate." Like, my son was about 11. "This is good news. You'll be able to go to Antarctica one day because you're not going to have an appendix. We're going to rip it out tonight." And I remember thinking, what? Like, what does that mean? Apparently, you cannot work in Antarctica if you have an appendix, because the risk is if you get appendicitis, there's no option for surgery. Anyway, that's a bit of an aside, but the more we've come to realize, the appendix isn't some, little sort of byproduct that's left over from years and years and years of genetic evolution. It has a function. Our gallbladder has a function. All of these parts of our system have a function, and we want them to be working well. So, yes, my son did lose his appendix. He can one day work in Antarctica if he ever chooses to. But he's had digestive issues since. So, we've had to work really hard to help support his body. That appendix is a bit of a reservoir of microbes that if for some reason your digestion gets impacted, say, for instance, you get food poisoning and you lose the contents of your digestive tract, then those reserved microbes come in and help restore the population of your digestive tract. So, it's the world that we live in. For my son in particular, he would have died if he hadn't had his appendix up. So, there was no options there. But we certainly want to be thinking about the anatomy of the digestive tract, the function of the digestive tract. Mechanically, is it doing everything? Chemically, is it doing everything to really help with those digestive processes? And I think if they are, ultimately we should be able to eat without that bloating, without that food baby sort of scenario going on. I know many women that have moved to a carnivore diet, and all of a sudden that's, the first thing they notice. I just don't bloat after food. It sort of leaves you to wonder. Well, it doesn't, I guess, leave me to wonder, but I for the majority of people, I go, well, why does that work? But it's because we're potentially taking out some of those foods that are inflammatory for those particular people, that are contributing to that digestive impairment.
Yeah, I mean, I fortunately, I still have my tonsils, I still have my appendix, I've got all my parts. I haven't had anything taken out of me, but I can remember working as an orthopedic surgeon, knocking out knee scopes, doing 6 or 7 a day. And just across the hall from me was a general surgeon ripping out gallbladders all day long. It was like there was a never-ending supply of gallbladders that had to come out. But it is, it's kind of interesting that we just so willy-nilly cut. Now with the bariatric surgery, just doing these vertical sleeve gastrectomies and chopping out pieces of body parts, and the long-term data seems like people are not doing as well as they thought initially. And we always sort of see that there's this promise at the beginning. And then when you look at the long-term data, nothing kills results like long-term data. That's what's often been said about that.
Yeah, but we live in this like quick solution world, don't we? That we, like give me the solution and let me do it now. And so, it's just the way that it's become, I think, things like, weight loss surgery is huge. It's huge. And I see too, clients that come to me, 2-5 years later, and they've lost weight, but their mental health may not be as good. There's other issues that have come up because ultimately their diets become quite restricted. They're not eating enough. They're not getting all the nutrients. And so, going back to that sort of fact that we're biochemical beings, we're like a factory. If you don't have all the raw ingredients, you don't necessarily get everything you need. And one of the biggest issues I see here in Australia, and it may just be my population, but we just don't eat enough protein. Across the board, whether you're carnivore or whatever way that you're practicing, or whatever food philosophy you have, that protein is just maybe especially for women, it's not ladylike to go to a restaurant and order a steak. We might go and we'll go, oh, I'll have the salad, thanks. But we do need a lot of protein. We break that down into those amino acids that are those, fundamental ingredients to make our neurotransmitters and to make our enzymes and do all of these other things. Repair and healing in the body needs protein, right?
Yeah, I wonder, I just wanted to, you mentioned our Antarctica. So when I was doing my training as a resident, we actually covered Antarctica. We had a remote Zoom sort of, telemedicine clinic in Antarctica. So every once in a while, if you're on call, they would call you from Antarctica, and somebody had fallen and had some orthopedic injury. And so we would provide care to Antarctica, which I think I was only called once in my entire 5 years here, but because there's not that many people in Antarctica, as you might imagine. But I didn't know that about the appendix. I know, like, it's kind of interesting. I wonder if you're allowed to go up in space without an appendix or something like that. It could be a similar situation where there's no reason to do that. I wonder if that just seems like a weird policy to me. But anyway.
It was weird when I heard it, let me tell you. It's been an ongoing joke in our family, like, oh, well, only one of us could ever go to Antarctica. In all honesty, I don't think any of us are ever going to go to Antarctica.